We're packing bags. We've got a number of different orders for today. Food sites are looking for us to deliver large sums of bags. And lasagna, mac and cheese. And then over here we've got sweet potatoes, mandarin oranges. So on March 13th, when the mayor announced the closing of the Boston Public Schools until April 27th, we knew that that meant something to us as an organization. We also knew that hunger was going to become a challenge. Because think about it. Children get 2 meals at school. They get breakfast and lunch at school. With the closure of schools, our thinking was those meals might go away, but the hunger was not going to go away. And so we decided that we were going to close our branches to wellness and aquatics, and we were going to reopen those branches for hunger prevention, and that's exactly what we did.
And on that Monday before everything closed down, we had brought the food bank out to visit all of our locations to get approved as pantry, as pop-up pantries is what I was thinking they would be. Because all of the Ys had shut down and the Huntington Ave had a big lobby and a group exercise space where we could store all the food, it made much more sense to make the Huntington Ave the distribution site where the food would come in every day from the Greater Boston Food Bank.
Everything you see has popped up within 2 days. We reached out to the food bank as soon as we, had a sense of the scale that this crisis would be, because we wanted to supplement our meals for kids under 18. We wanted to expand the community that we were serving to, the populations that we knew would be vulnerable. We were working with all partners and in getting new partners every single day to make sure that we're expanding to every single neighborhood, every single household, every single family.
The Greater Boston Food Bank is the largest hunger relief organization in Massachusetts and all of New England actually, and one of the largest food banks in the country. And we have over 600 partner agencies and programs that distribute food from our warehouse. And this year we've distributed over 108 million pounds of food. There was a trend with YMCAs really across the state where they had some food programming, but food distribution wasn't a core part of their mission and operations prior to the pandemic. But they had staff on hand and they had buildings that were sitting empty. They quickly realized that emergency nutrition distribution was, in this time period, a really critical service for them to offer. Even the city of Boston moving 2 members of the planning department over to the Office of Food Access and Food Justice to be able to assess city properties, loading docks, warehouse spaces that we could try to leverage to support distribution in places that weren't typical for distribution to take place in.
The mission of the Office of Food Justice is to build a more equitable and resilient food system. So that involves connecting residents to resources, supporting the local economy, and promoting sustainable, resilient food production. During COVID, the scale of need really shifted. In terms of stats, a report from Greater Boston Food Bank showed that in May 2020, 560,000 visitors visited pantries for food compared to 280,000 in 2019. So that's like a doubling of visitors, which is huge. I know they also distributed 94 million pounds of food between March 2020 and December 2020, which is a 58% increase of the distribution in that time. So I think numbers like that really show us how big the need really was and impacted individuals and families all across Boston.
The really early days, it was really triaging. What's the latest information? What are the experts saying? And how do we pivot from what we've been doing to try to respond to that latest information? So we quickly realized that the Greater Boston Food Bank with 9 trucks and this warehouse facility was not set up to do that last mile distribution to every resident of Boston. We have a wide service area that we are responsible for, all of Eastern Massachusetts, and so it was key to be strategic in how we placed resources. And working with the YMCA, because of their footprint within the city, their multiple locations, their expertise, their connection to community and the people in those communities who are needing support, with our capabilities to move product.
I chose to serve my community because I see the greater need for assistance here. I average about 225 meals a day. Being in a low-income housing, sometimes parents have to decide whether to buy enough food or pay the gas to have heat and hot water. With us being here, it prevents the choice. There shouldn't be a choice when it comes to meals. That's what we should do. I mean, if we don't help each other, who's going to help us?
We do this every day. There are people out there in need. There's kids out there in need that need our help. And, you know, you have a brother and sister duo out here, you know, just helping the community out, just trying to do our best part. And yeah, it's getting done. Me and Monica both from Boston, we're both from Rosendale. So we are, you know, born and raised here, working in our community. When we leave work, we're still here. It's a good feeling to be able to connect with the community.
It's definitely brought us closer to everyone out here because they see us as a familiar face and now they see us as helping them, and that truly brought us all together.
This job has, you know, brought us together as a family and also to the community, just like a brother and sister tag team, just helping out, delivering meals to kids and family and people of need. As long as we need to be here, we'll continue to be here day in and day out.
We definitely build strong bonds with the people outside. We have kids making us pictures, giving us gifts, and saying thank you. And it's just bringing us all together as a community, and that's really what we need at a time like this.
After the pandemic, I think it was a realization from everyone involved, you know, from both the local government and local nonprofits of exactly how much it's actually needed in the city to help support, you know, our everyday folks in the community, right? So we saw an inherent increase in the amount of not only kids, but also parents that needed food because they had nowhere else to turn. And so in partnership with not only the city of Boston, but the food bank, it was vital to understand which communities had the highest need and to provide as much resources to those communities as fast as possible.
Our whole model is predicated on partnerships. What we do at Project Bread is connect individuals and communities to existing resources. If you're an individual facing food insecurity, there's lots of programs out there, and knowing which ones you're eligible for or how to apply for them, it can be overwhelming, and that's where Project Bread comes in. We try to help individuals understand how they can access food, where they can access food, and in order to do that, we need partners throughout the state, YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs and elementary schools, farmers markets, all of these different partners out there who are providing food and spreading other programs. We are very grateful to have so many partners who are working in this with us.
We can't talk about hunger prevention and our response to it without talking about City Fresh Food. City Fresh has been an ongoing partner of ours in this work of addressing hunger in the city.
We've done up to 800,000 meals with this Y contract, which has enabled the company to grow by like 10% to our top line. We have also been able to hire more people and bring people on for the contract. We've also expanded our fleet. We've also expanded our facility to fulfill this contract. So there's been a big push economically. We've also gotten closer to our goal of employee ownership, and we've been able to formulate an employee stock purchase plan that came from this contract.
They're a minority-owned business in the heart of the Black and brown community. 85% of their employees are residents of those communities. Because of the contract with us, they increased the space that they needed in order to prepare the meals by 30,000 additional square feet of space. In exchange, we went from serving 540,000 meals in 2018 to 837,000 meals in 2019 to 4.6 million meals in 2020. Doesn't happen by accident. It happens because, you know, we're partnering with other organizations who love the city and love the residents and love the children and love the seniors of this community as much as we do.
The more partners that we can bring in to work on the issue of food insecurity, the better. That only helps us all do what we're here to do, which is to end hunger in Eastern Massachusetts. So as we bring on additional partners, it strengthens the network. We could sit in a conference room here in Boston and think we know what's best for Malden or a particular neighborhood in Boston or the South Coast. But when we have strong partners who are embedded in the community, who know their community, and we can focus on sourcing food and bringing in nutritious food and the logistics of all of that operation, and we can have them focus on knowing their community and doing that last mile. It's really the best of all worlds, where we can get nutritious food, we can move it to where it needs to be, and get it to families and individuals quickly.
So many people came forward to work together in partnership to make sure that children were fed. During the pandemic and the height, Ramadan was coming up, and in both the Roxbury and East Boston communities, there was a huge need to serve meals that were halal, and the kitchen in East Boston was used as a prep site.
My name is Said El-Minawi. I'm the owner of Tamari's Cuisine. Before the pandemic, I ran a commercial kitchen at Framingham, but when the pandemic comes, I decided to cook for the community, East Boston community.
I came here 2011. Since I came to East Boston, I like it. It's good location and good neighbors.
I came from Morocco. I bring with me the cooking background. We cook around 200 plates each day, cooking lunches for all the community. We cook Moroccan, Mediterranean, halal food. All the food is halal. Sometimes I bring the food for the families without they ask for. I just go there and knock the door, give her the food, surprise people.
Before the pandemic, 1 in 11 households in Massachusetts were food insecure. Now, 1 in 5 households with children in Massachusetts are now food insecure during the pandemic. And for Black and Latinx households, that number is doubled. So that population that has been disproportionately impacted by the health crisis is also being disproportionately impacted by the economic fallout. We are an anti-hunger organization, and we view hunger as an economic condition. The reality is that people are hungry in Massachusetts because they can't afford food or they can't access food. There is enough food. So we don't look at this as a food problem. We look at this as an economic problem. And we're anti-hunger in the sense that we want to give people the economic resources to ensure that they can reliably and consistently access and afford food.
What COVID-19 has kind of illustrated for us, the ways in which Black and brown Americans are more impacted adversely around issues of health, wealth, and education. And now that's not a mystery and that's not a surprise, we've known that. But now, in ways that could never be denied, we are forced, I think, as a country, to address those disparities.
That are being left behind that we have to fight for. There are underlying healthcare issues that nutrition can actually help fix or help improve. And it's up to them to find nutritious meals, and that's something where we can help. So we can help provide avenues and access to nutritious ingredients and meals.
The kitchen itself, Stockpot Malden, we call it a shared kitchen incubator. From a distribution standpoint, we work with the Salvation Army, and we deliver twice a week. Those meals are meant to be 2 meals every day for 7 days. So it's a breakfast and a lunch, or you can consider it a dinner if you want. But we deliver 14 meals per week there. The Chelsea program is a very rewarding program from our standpoint. It is a program where we currently deliver to 1,600 kids in Chelsea, but our hope is to even increase that number since we know there are children in needs out there, and our challenge is to go reach them. The program for the Chelsea kids is a very large number of meals, and you can see here some of the quantities being assembled. We serve about I think it's 11,000 meals a week right now, so that is a large number every day, and right now they are preparing for Thursday and Friday across 3 locations. We know that very often those school programs provide food which is very average, which is very industrial, which comes from far away, which has been frozen, and which is not particularly Latinx relevant, at least for the Hispanic component, which is 2/3 of Chelsea.
Food insecurity on the one hand is very simple. People need more nutritious food. On the other hand, it's very complicated because it interacts with all of our other societal systems: housing, healthcare, employment, equity across job placement and access to these resources. They're all very much at play in what could cause somebody to be food insecure.
1 in 9 white households with children in the latter half of 2021 reported food insecurity, but 1 in 3 Black households with children in Massachusetts and 1 in 4 Latinx households with children reported food insecurity. So that just shows that there's still this really large gap and inequities there. So whatever programs and policies we have in place, we're gonna have to make sure they impact everyone. With that, it really opens up like a food systems approach to food insecurity and thinking about how to promote local produce, farmers with markets, that kind of work to build in sustainability and resilience there.
Here at SIENA Farms, we grow about 55, 60 acres of vegetables annually. We supply restaurants in the area, our own retail stores in Boston, and our CSA membership. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. That's a weekly subscription program for a weekly box of produce that families in the area sign up for. It supports the farm year-round and gets a steady supply of produce into the homes of our members.
Throughout Boston, we've been delivering our bags of pre-packed pantry and produce items from the Greater Boston Food Bank, but we're really hearing like a need and a want for more fresh produce, and that's where SIENA came in.
This spring, we were lucky enough to start working with the YMCA of Greater Boston on what we're calling a sponsored farm share program. Our existing CSA members have been invited to purchase sponsored farm shares for families in the YMCA network who are facing food insecurity. As an organic farmer, for the last 20 years, it's always been a struggle to find ways to serve lower income communities. This program has been a game changer to make our fresh produce accessible to families in the community who would otherwise have a hard time accessing this sort of super fresh, like we call it fancy produce.
Being able to distribute food to the community has been work that feels really necessary and important. It's something that everyone should have access to begin with.
This is a very small but feels very concrete way to make a difference in what really is a giant and very urgent challenge facing not only our local community but communities all around the world.
We're currently distributing the boxes weekly at a couple community organizations so that everyone in Boston has access to fresh, healthy, local veggies.
I've heard lots of stories about how it started on Huntington and the difficulties and all the barriers because it's not a place to distribute food, you know, how you stored it and had to go on the elevators. So there, I'm not sure what the actual capacity was at the time, but it has grown tremendously. They went from there to MELNEA Cast DCR, and that's where I started last February. Small site, we were using just like a large room to store the food, and so we could only get a certain amount of food. We only had a couple refrigerators for produce overflow and for eggs. Our capacity was not that large. You know, we were very, very grateful to get this space. We came here April 1st of 2021, and this is just an ideal space. We have the storage for food, and not only that, we were able to receive a great walk-in from the Greater Boston Food Bank through a grant. So this really has been a blessing for the Y and allowed us to really reach more people, and we will just continue to grow. Weekly, we do an average of about 800 bags of food a day, and we currently have 44 sites that we deliver to throughout the city. We have increased a lot. I think I was averaging like 3,200 to 3,500 bags a week, and now we're up to 4,200 plus, and I've added in a year over 20 sites. It's just growing. I actually have a wait list of more sites that want to be added, so the goal is just to keep trying to feed every neighborhood we can.
In Boston, we have been doing food distribution since 2007, but before it was more like for occasional families that didn't really need help, so it wasn't full-blown distribution. However, the pandemic changed all that. We saw an exponential increase of people asking for help. the need is dire. It's really, people really need help. People really need help for basic sustenance. So we work with the City of Boston, with the Greater Boston Food Bank as well, to continue this effort on a regular basis. And now here we are. There's so many stories of people being grateful of what we do, and to have that feeling, people saying hey, thank you, because the work you're doing, you can't describe it. It fills you with, I think in economic terms, they call it the warm glow. In your soul, you feel fulfilled, So it's, yeah, I think this is the best job I ever had.
We want people to feel more comfortable receiving the food. We want people to feel welcome, when they come into their site, feel like a community. And I think the sites that we've been working with, the partners, the coordinators have been really good at that. I can totally relate, coming from a background where a lot of kids, single mom. I understand the stigma in not wanting to ask for help.
Stigma is a huge challenge, and one of the things that we really need to work to fight as a community and as a society, that it's okay to ask for help. One of the things that we find consistently is that people are very hesitant to ask for that help, but once they take that step, they recognize how welcoming and how compassionate our network of partners is, and they feel cared for. But that stigma is real, and so we need to break that barrier down. As we understand what people need, then we can try to address the systemic issues that are preventing people from getting those needed resources.
I think that's how a lot of people feel, like they don't want to feel like victims or feel like they're just recipients of something, right? And so that really deters how people want to interact with systems of power. There's room to think about, again, the root causes of food insecurity, right? And think about labor as well as affordable housing, all these things. So our public subsidies and public resources should really go towards building a food system that we want and that works for everyone. There are these root causes to hunger that are about economic stability that really require policy changes. And I think those kind of conversations are a little bit harder than donations or volunteer, which are all really important parts of food access, but it's not the only part of the solution.
Hunger is America's favorite charity, which is wonderful. We really are committed to solving it. I think we need to get ourselves out of that mindset though, and recognize that this problem is too big for charity to solve alone. This is not a problem that can be solved by charity. And so what I hope happens next is that individuals that are committed to solving hunger start to think of new ways to do it. If there's a silver lining to this horrible crisis that we've endured, it's that we've shown a light on the existence of hunger, and I really hope we start to look at large-scale systemic responses to addressing it.
Hunger does enjoy sort of bipartisan support. It's a cause that many people are happy to support, but the scope of the issue in our communities is largely unknown because people aren't engaged. And so I would say get engaged. Donate your time, donate your money, find your local food pantry or meal program, come volunteer at the food bank. Take that first step to participate in being a part of the solution, and then doors will open. You'll see more and more opportunities that line up with your skills and your interests to understand, how else can you help? Once folks do that, they start to understand the scale of hunger in their own communities.
Now, I'll share with you that in my own life, I grew up poor. I'm here because I know what it feels like to live in poverty. I know what the threat of hunger feels like. I know what the embarrassment of needing food feels like. And so the work we do today is exactly the work that we should be doing. I can't imagine doing anything else. I just wish I could do it better.